Too much, you know.
Even the city council approved this.
Gets close. Okay, good.
What's up, Mark?
Can't see our light, can
Same old thing.
Same old stuff.
we're hot.
Got it?
Yep. Yep. It's official clock. When Mickey says it's 7 o'clock, it's 7 o'clock.
Wow, that's a long minute.
It is a long minute.
George is cold, so we can go. Call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for Monday, January 9th, 2023. Roll call, please.
Mark Hydrich.
Here?
Mark Kleesner.
Here.
Mark Pantic.
Here.
Tom Hobart.
Here.
Mayor Hagedorn.
Here.
John Borgman.
Here.
Chuck Watson.
Here.
Samantha Cirelli Wacker. Here. Carolyn Witt. Mike Wood.
Here.
Sal Maniaci.
Here.
Please stand for a pledge of allegiance. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the November 16th, 2022 meeting.
Motion to approve. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Moving on to item number 3, file number 22-1005, 1104 Jefferson Street, short-term rental, tabled from the November meeting. Sal?
Yes, I'll just be real brief because I'll let the applicant speak. At your November meeting, this was tabled due to an issue with parking. So if you can see, or an issue with driveway access in particular. The driveway is a shared driveway with the neighbor, and it kind of crosses over. And I pulled up the street view so we can see that better. You can see here the parking is shared on both. In your packet tonight is a signed letter from both neighbors saying they've come to an agreement, but I'll be honest, I did not speak to them. They dropped it off right before the packet was sent out, so I don't know the details of that agreement other than that they signed it. So I was just going to let them explain.
Questions, comments by board? If not, we can hear from the applicant.
Good evening. I'm Nicole Schaefer. Not a whole lot has changed. We did speak with neighbors, and we came to two options of either what we were hoping to do was change boundary lines so that it would split the driveway exactly down the middle, and we would both widen a little bit, and then we would each have our own driveways. That's proving to be a little bit more complicated than we had anticipated. So if that doesn't work out, then we will have an easement. We will also widen the driveway so we can easily fit 2 lines of cars, some for them, some for us, and have an easement on there so that they allow them to continue using that also. So.
Any questions, comments by board?
Have you addressed the concerns that the neighbors on either side had about, they expressed some reservations about your business plan? Have you worked that out with them as well?
A little bit. We've made some adjustments to how we would do our rental. We have put bunk beds and kids' toys all in the upstairs, and then a game room downstairs. So we're hoping to cater to younger families with children, so that might, with bunk beds, we're hoping to deter people that are coming to party. And we are going to put in the rental 2 cars so that they will have room to park on the driveway and no parking on the road, and we will tell them that and show boundary lines right on the rental where things are allowed to be and not be, so.
Okay.
And we've lowered the amount of people that can fit in there, so that we won't get a giant group.
Okay.
Very good.
Any other questions?
Yes, what is that amount of people that would fit into a house like that, that you're using as a regulation?
We were originally hoping for 12. We have enough rooms with windows, with closets, with doors, all to be completely regulated. And we have lowered it to 8, just because we feel it'll be a better environment to not have a ton of people. And if we have to regulate it to only 2 vehicles, that makes more sense to have
Okay.
only 2 cars.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments by board?
Guess the only question I have really is to you, Mark. Can we go ahead and approve this without having the easements and all that
Yeah, you-
finalized?
You can. My guess is that that driveway has been there for long enough that they probably have acquired an easement right by adverse possession,
Okay.
prescriptive easement, whatever you want to call it. They would have the right to continue to use that easement.
Okay,
that
thank you.
driveway.
Any other questions, comments? All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else in the audience that would like to speak on this?
The neighbors? Awesome.
Good. Anything else by board? If not, entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Moving on to item number 4, file number 230101, 612 Riverview Place, short-term rental.
Before I move on, I just want to let, this 1104 will be on city council on
Sorry.
Monday, or Tuesday, the 17th, because of the holiday. So Tuesday, the 17th.
Okay, Sal, item number 4, sorry about
All right,
that.
so another very, actually, this one's a little bit more straightforward because it does not have a shared driveway. So another request for short-term lodging. Luckily, I don't need much of a pointer tonight, but I realized when I got here, my pointer is dead. So bear with me, I won't be able to point exactly, but the subject property is highlighted here, 612 Riverview Place. So it is on the southern end of, thank you, southern end of Riverview there, and kind of in that one block. So once you get past, I believe that's MacArthur's to the east, but First Street is on the other side of the block, and then so Riverview Place is really just kind of this one block here, and then MacArthur dead ends as well. You can see it is zoned R1B, single-family residential, which is why they're here tonight. Anything in outside of C1, C2, C3 does require a special use permit. Again, with the aerial, so you can see the parking. So they do have a garage in the back. They have not stated if that was to be used for parking or storage, but you can see with the length of it, you can fit, it's longer than an average driveway, so you can fit more cars than you typically could on just a standard driveway. And then obviously it does have on-street parking as well for 2 cars. And then on here you can see the yellow dots. They're a little bit hard to see. But we have the existing short-term lodging, so about 1.5 blocks to 2 blocks. You can see there's one on 3rd Street there, one on First Street to the east. Those are the closest, and then when you get into 6th and 7th, we just approved those on 6th Street last month. So the other 2 have been in operation for at least a year. It's been a while since we've approved those, and I'm not aware of any complaints. So, as with we commonly do with these, we do recommend approval. So,
Anything by board? Questions, comments? If not, is the applicant here? I know you don't want to, but could you come up, please? Introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Marcy. I grew up in Washington. I currently do live in St. Louis, though. Eventually, I would love to move back here full-time, but it just isn't in the cards quite yet. A little bit of a backstory. My husband and I got married here in Washington back in 2018, and our relatives live in several different states. So when they all came in for the wedding, they actually rented 2 vacation rentals here in town. And it was great. They got to, cook breakfast together in the morning, hang out throughout the day, and just spend a lot more time together than they normally would have had they all been in separate hotel rooms. The next day, my husband and I actually stayed with them the day after the wedding, and it was just a great experience. Almost immediately after that, I started looking for a house here in town. It just seemed like it made perfect sense if I could buy something here that we could use as much as we wanted to, but then we could share with other families when we weren't utilizing it. So after about 3 years of actively looking at real estate in Washington, putting in multiple offers because the market was crazy, I finally purchased 612 Riverview last January. The house wasn't in very good shape when I purchased it, but I saw potential and I was excited and up for the challenge of making it beautiful again and also just making it ours. It was built in 1934, so I preserved as much of the 1930s charm as I could while still updating and modernizing it, modernizing the functionality of the home. There pretty much wasn't a single room in the house that hasn't been transformed, and even the creepy, scary basement got some love. I won't waste much of your time, but I do have a few before and after pictures. So this is the kitchen before and after. You can just this is the downstairs bathroom before and after. Wow. That's one view of the master bedroom. I did like the picture frame molding to try to bring in some of the historical charm. This is the other side of the master bedroom. Master bath. And then that's just the hallway going down to the basement that's not so scary anymore. The house is a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, single-family home, and this is a picture of the driveway. That's showing 3 SUVs parked in the driveway, and then the picture on the right shows that at least 2 more cars could fit in the driveway. If I am approved for a special use permit, I plan to have strict rules for the guests. No parties, quiet hours after 9 p.m., etc. I know many vacation rentals will have multiple beds in one room, and all the couches in the house will be pulled out to allow for as many people to stay as possible, but I purposely did not do that. That's not the type of renter I'm targeting. I also have 3 cameras installed on the property just for safety, peace of mind. This renovation took an entire year, and I put pretty much everything into this house. This is more than just an investment property to me. It's actually our second home, and I will be very particular when approving guests who are eligible to stay. But that being said, it's also important to me that all my neighbors feel comfortable with guests too, so I would like to ease any concerns that anyone may have.
Questions or comments by board?
Have you spoken with your neighbors before tonight?
Yes, actually, I met a lot of my neighbors from the very first month that I closed. And I was very upfront since the beginning. I said, this is a home that my husband and I will use, but we would like to rent out to families when we're not utilizing it. And I didn't think that there was any concerns, but I've recently been told there has been. So I just want to make sure everyone feels comfortable.
Okay.
How many bedrooms and baths?
There's 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. One of those 4 bedrooms is really small, so it's really only ideal for a child. It just has a twin bed in it.
Well, how many people do you anticipate?
I was only going to open it up to 8. It could sleep, it's a decent sized house. It could sleep quite a bit more, but like I said, I didn't do pull-out couches or double beds or anything like that.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, Marcy, if you own the house in Washington and you live in St. Louis, how will you regulate your restrictions for that?
So there's a few different ways. On all these different platforms, you can allow guests to auto book. I don't plan to do that. So if you don't do that, you actually have the opportunity to have a conversation with the guests before they come and stay. And so I could get a feel for why they're coming to town, who they're coming with, how many guests, all of that kind of stuff. And also I have people in town that will be helping with the property.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else by board? Right. Thanks.
Thanks.
Anyone else in the audience like to come up and speak? One thing I want to, your address to the board.
Yes.
and not each other. So
My
we'll
name
get
is
the answers
Kate
to the questions.
Camper. I live at 615 East Third. This property backs up to our property. I have not had the pleasure of meeting my new neighbors because they are not there. As you said earlier, this is like the 6th property that's been in front of you. That is not the community that I want. I don't want 6 properties being approved every month, every other month, that are short-term rentals. I moved into a neighborhood, not a hotel district. I'm not sure if I'm the only one that finds this to be troublesome or a troublesome pattern. I'm sure this is more money for the city, but the city is not an actual person. It is made of small groups of people that live in homes, that actually live here. She said that they got married in 2019 in Washington. We got married in 1999 in Washington. Neither of us lived here. We managed to make it work. She sounds like she had ample resources for her family from several states, as did we. I think my family came in from 5 states. So the resources are already here. They don't need to be in my backyard. I can probably fit 20 cars into my driveway. And I don't think anybody wants that many people living there, in and out constantly, and not actually being a neighbor. One thing I love about this town is the fact that I run into so many people that I actually know and like most of the time when I'm out and about, and can say, oh, by the way, saw a car I didn't recognize in front of your house, or I'm going on vacation, can you keep an eye on my place? Can you swing by and feed the cat? I got stuck in the city. These things are what make all of us want to live here. If you don't want to live here and you just want a property to come and visit, that's fantastic too. But what I don't want in my literal backyard is people I don't know every weekend. And I don't actually care if it's 2 or 20. All of these things make me incredibly uncomfortable. And I'm sure she will very carefully screen the strange people that come in and out of my backyard, but that does not apply to me. These could be new neighbors, and they could be wonderful people, and I would have a chance to get to know them, but they're not. They're strangers every week. And I, for one, am profoundly uncomfortable with it. I know that doesn't sway one way or another, but the fact that it's 6 dots around my house closing in on what I purchased 15 years ago as a residential property is very quickly becoming a party zone. And that does not make me very happy. So that being said, that's actually all I have to say. I'm sure I have a lot more if I were planning on speaking tonight, which I'm not. My daughter played a great deal with the child that lived there before. I wouldn't put more than 4 adults in that house, much less 8. The last family that lived there was a nice couple with 2 small children, and they outgrew it when the second child came along. So I don't know where the 4th bedroom is coming from. I would love to meet the people who redid it and added on the magical bedroom. But that being said, I think that's all for me. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Hi.
I need my glasses. My name is Bonnie Martin, and I live at number 4 Riverview Court. This is the area between Riverview Place and the river, so it's behind Riverview Place. I have 2 concerns that I'd like to talk to this group tonight about. The first is our neighborhood that we're talking about in this rental house, and then the second is the overall community as a whole, that's Washington. So I just have a statement that I'd just like to read to you, if that's okay. Our neighborhood, as it is today, is lovely. The people know each other. We wave and smile and watch out for each other. We collect each other's mail and watch out for each other's homes when one of us goes out of town. We have each other's phone numbers. We pet each other's dogs on the head and chit-chat about the weather and events in towns or whatever. Some of us own homes and some of us are long-term renters in this neighborhood, but we're all neighbors. We know who's supposed to be here, and we know if something is off. It's a lovely little neighborhood. If Marcy were wanting to live here, we'd welcome her with open arms. But she doesn't want to live here. She wants to have an Airbnb business here and make a profit here and live somewhere else. There are hundreds of accommodations in this town for tourists and guests. There are hotels, motels, bed and breakfasts, guest houses, VRBOs, Airbnbs, all over town. The dots you just showed, they're everywhere. Tourism dollars in this town is a fantastic thing. It really is. It's a wonderful town, a wonderful place to live, and a wonderful place to visit. I'm proud to live here, and I fully understand why people would want to come and spend time here. Tourism dollars generated in commercial areas of town, I'm for it, fully for it. But there are commercial zones and residential zones in this city, and there's a reason for it. So neighborhoods are neighborhoods, and business is where business is done. The house at 612 Riverview Place has a single wide driveway, sleeping for at least 8 people. The number of vehicles, 5 in a single row, there's gonna be on-street parking. There's people in our neighborhood, they already park on street. They live there, that's where they park. Where are they gonna park? The bigger issue for our community, investors at an alarming rate are coming in to our town and buying up residential properties for no other purpose than to turn them into profit-making rentals. The house we're talking about tonight, 612 Riverview Place, and another one on the same street, 607 Riverview Place, were both sold before they even hit the MLS. They were both purchased by Marcy. People who want to buy homes in this town to actually live here, they don't have a chance. They don't have a chance. And they'll continue to not have a chance as long as there is incentive for investors to make big bucks at the expense of these neighborhoods. What's the plan for the second house on the street, 607 Riverview Place? It's not for Marcy to live in. We will likely be right back here in this room in a few months having the same conversation about another Airbnb at that address, on the same street. Marcy, she's a realtor. She sat in our house, Mike and mine's house, at my dining room table, and she told us at least 3, maybe 4, I lost track, different tales about what her plans were for 612 and 607 Riverview Place. Now, I live in a small town, but I can recognize a load of big city manure when I hear it, and that's what I heard. Everything that's been said tonight, the concerns about strangers in the neighborhood, the concerns about parties, noise, parking, and crime, I share all those concerns for my neighborhood. My other concern is this community as a whole. Where and when does this stop? When do neighborhoods get to remain full of neighbors and not customers? When do the city leaders listen to the people who actually live here and work here and pay taxes here and vote here? There is absolutely nothing positive about an Airbnb at 612 Riverview Place for those of us who live in that neighborhood. We weren't asked if this was okay with us. We weren't consulted about it. The first we even heard about it, or the first I even heard about it, was when I got a letter from the city. I didn't know this was going on. And then I don't know what the criteria is for approving or denying these applications for one of these permits. The neighborhood and the neighbors in it that we've talked to, that I've talked to, they don't want this. They don't want an Airbnb in their neighborhood. We don't want this permit issued for 612, I don't. And I would like to ask you to please deny the permit. And please stop issuing them elsewhere in this town, unless they're within the commercial zones in the city. Because Airbnbs are businesses, and they belong within the commercial zones, because that's where business belongs, not in neighborhoods. In making your decision about the special use permit for 612 Riverview Place, I hope you will seriously consider what I have said here tonight and seriously consider the views I expressed, the views that are expressed by my neighbors if they choose to speak. And I look forward to hearing your decision, and thank you for the opportunity to voice my opinion in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie.
I do want to say one thing. The city is aware of what's going on with the short-term rentals, and we are looking at it. You can't move mountains in a short period of time. There's also some criteria nationwide that they use for the percentage of housing. that short term, and we're looking at that. Up till recently, we really couldn't even tell if it was short term or long term, and there are probably a lot of people renting short term that nobody had any idea. So the city's very aware of it and looking and may take action in the future, but it's going to probably take a little while to make sure we have everything correct. Housing in and of itself, there's certain laws governing housing, and we got to be fair to everyone in the housing market. They could rent this out right now as a long-term rental for a year. Yeah. No, I know. But I'm just saying, a lot of people wouldn't run a rental in their neighborhood either. So, you know, we're looking at it, and we know there could be a problem in town in the future if this continues, because we are aware of the housing problems we're facing also with new housing starts. So just want to let you know those couple of things. Any other?
I just had a comment. I know this is definitely an emotionally charged thing, and we're here to listen to everybody, and we're here to listen to everybody respectfully. So I would ask that everyone in the audience be respectful of each other, control the laughter or smirking or inappropriate facial gestures while people are speaking, and just please be respectful of each other and of your neighbors. Okay?
And I just wanted to add one thing, or two things actually, no matter how it turns out tonight. You guys know there is an ordinance if people are parked in front of your house. If people are parked in front of your house past 10 o'clock at night, you can call a non-emergency number 390-1050, and the police will come out and they will get it moved. Number two, there's a noise ordinance as well. Nothing after 10 o'clock. So just to let you know, to keep that in the back of your mind as well. So you guys said something about off, you know, parking on street. That's, if they're parked in front of your houses, you can get them moved.
Right, come on up.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Annie Klingler. I live at 609 Riverview Place. It is located directly across the street from 612. I have lived there for 27 years. And had I known that we were able to submit photos of our properties or past evidence of ongoing problems that we have seen over the last year at this residence while they have been there, I would have submitted those. I was unaware that I was able to do so. However, I do have a few printed out here in my portfolio that I could submit, or I can email them at a later date. I'd first like to address a few things that Ms. Keel brought up in her statement, and that was that she spoke to her neighbors. I had rarely spoke to the Keels or her mother, who's over there on a regular basis, other than for a couple issues that we had in the neighborhood. She never explained to me that this was going to be a B&B or that this would be a concern. So I also know that many of the people that I've spoken to in the last 6 days since I received the letter, which I have been each and every day working very diligently to speak to everyone possible and get their true feelings and understanding for the situation. But to address some of the things that Marcy said before I go with my statement is that she provided some very lovely photos, and they are. The house was not run down prior to her moving in. It might not have been to her standards, however, it was not run down. Personally, I would have lived there the way it was. But that being said, I would have loved to provided some photos of my home. I have spent over $100,000 on my home in the last 12 years, doing an addition, just updates, etc. I love my home. It's a very lovely 95-year-old residence, and would love to provide you with those if you'd like to see how well maintained everybody else's houses are. As far as her photos of the driveway with the 3 cars, that was taken this weekend. I watched that happen. On no other day prior to that day in the last year have they parked all 3 of their cars in the driveway. That was only done for a photo op to prove to you that they can fit in the driveway, which they can, but that's never happened. We have them parking in front of everyone's house. I have a photo where they have every parking spot taken up on the entire block They park in the middle of the street. They don't put two in front of a house. It's one centered, one here, one there. So I do have photos of that to provide. So let me move forward. Again, my name is Annie Klingler. For 27 years, I have owned and lived at the home at 609 Riverview Place, which is directly across the street from 612. I myself, as I mentioned earlier, have poured my heart and soul as well into my 95-year-old home over the decades. I have built many wonderful relationships in my neighborhood, and thus I am so passionate about this subject coming to my residential neighborhood. In an effort to maintain the integrity of my neighborhood and the safety of myself and my neighbors, I am here tonight to voice my strong opposition to this special use permit for an Airbnb or VRBO at 612 Riverview Place. When I received the letter from the city informing me that the special use permit application was filed for 612 Riverview Place, I was caught completely off guard. Marcy Keel never once reached out to speak to me beforehand, and I would have, as it's the neighborly thing to do. After attempts to contact Marcy, I was finally able to reach her and have a conversation about it the following day after receiving the letter. Marcy, at the beginning of the conversation, pretended that she did not know what I was talking about until I told her that all neighbors had received this said letter and we were all talking, at which time she was forced to confirm her intentions and understood and explained to me that yes, indeed, those were her intentions, is to have an Airbnb. I also informed her that I had discovered that she had also purchased 607 Riverview Place, which is located directly next door to me, to the west of my property. I asked her if her intentions were for an Airbnb there, and she did confirm that as well. During the course of the same conversation, she mentioned some of the things she could do were provide cameras for the property. I have a background, I've worked in police, fire, and EMS many years. I am now in a nursing field, and I know for a fact that cameras are only good unless they're being monitored 24 hours a day, 7 days a week by a live, awake person watching said cameras for crimes or other issues. Those cameras will only be good after the fact, after a crime has been committed or an issue has been committed as proof, but we would not have access to that. So therefore, mostly the majority of the neighbors will have to put cameras on their home too to protect their property. It's worth noting that it was mentioned before, both properties were sold prior to making the MLS. The neighbors did not even know they were for sale, many of the neighbors. Therefore, no families needing a home in a wonderful neighborhood to raise their family were allowed this opportunity to purchase either home. Home shortages in Washington, wonder why. After my conversation with Marcy, I talked with most, if not all, of my neighbors, and I have discovered that many did not realize that Airbnbs are not staffed, and a typical hotel or bed, like a typical hotel and bed and breakfast are, meaning no one on site, no one to supervise. Many did not know this. They just did not realize. They did not know that it simply takes a username, a password, and a credit card to be granted entry code and to gain access to a home on my block. The screening that can come from these bookings is entirely done online, and it's limited. There is little way for the renter to know who's coming, and absolutely no way for people who live in the neighborhood to know who's coming and going. Next, I had the privilege over the last 6 days to meet many residents of the downtown Washington C3 district. They currently live next door to temporary housing that has been approved and are operating. I wanted to find out their take on how they feel living next door to an Airbnb. I was open to hearing the positives, negatives. I wanted to have an open mind. I knocked on their doors, boots on the ground. Many felt like living next to the properties, their experiences, they had talked, they were very, very honest with me. One person said, she explained that they had a person walk right into her home, mistaking her house for an Airbnb. Another resident explained guest once returned from a night of partying and continued to party on her patio. Not the patio of the Airbnb. They had showed up to the wrong house entirely.
But the majority of them explained their biggest concern was not knowing who was coming and going in their residential neighborhood at random hours of the day and night. And there was simply a general lack of respect for their established residential neighborhoods and property. The influx of out-of-town visitors upsets the peaceful environment of long-standing residential neighborhoods like mine. Short-term renters have no stake in the community, and therefore no reason to care about how the neighborhood around them suffers from their vacation activities. We have a parking issue now, as I had mentioned. Our streets are not wide by any means there. There are numerous driveways, as you can see. There's alleyway, fire hydrants, telephone poles, limited street parking areas. The lots on this street are all very small. They're very narrow, leaving us with 1 to 2 on-street parking spots per residence. I further believe that an Airbnb in our neighborhood results in the business owner making profits, while the residents of our choir neighborhood suffer from the risks of her business. If someone is driving down the street, I ask you, are they looking for an Airbnb? They're driving slowly. It's late at night. Is it a suspicious vehicle? Are they casing houses to rob? Or are they looking for an address to check in? We won't know. We won't know our neighbors' vehicles. We will not have that bond. If someone is attempting to open my front or back door, is it an intoxicated guest of an Airbnb? Someone attempting to break in my home? Which is it? I won't know. I won't know. This causes a safety risk. If there's someone in my backyard, is it a prowler or is it another Airbnb customer lost? In closing, and I thank you for so much time given to me, I personally desire permanent neighbors in my homes on my street who raise their children in a quiet, peaceful neighborhood that we have all created. I raised my daughter there. She went to school here. She was taught by our teachers. Families who live in these homes will attend our churches. Permanent neighbors have accountability in our neighborhood, who vote for our leaders, truly. They are accountable for their actions and peacefully coexist with their neighbors. They don't check out 2 days later after causing a ruckus. I do not want transient, temporary guests coming and going on a daily or weekly basis in a residential neighborhood. Residential neighborhood. We are neighborhood. We are not interested in anyone else's profit at our expense of the place where we reside. We must consider the people that already made this place their home and who simply want to live here in peace and especially safety. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Ann. Excuse me, Annie. Annie, excuse me. Did you guys happen to get a petition together?
We did.
Can you submit that to Gina then?
We can. Do you want the original or the copy? Is a copy fine?
Two people are talking. I
Wait,
can't.
wait.
I can't.
I have it.
Okay, go ahead.
I only have a copy. She has the original. She'll submit it to you.
Yeah. Anyone else? Come on up.
Okay, so I'm just going to say a few words. I have a little summary here that will explain.
Wait, what's your name
and address?
Sorry, Tammy Wheatley.
Where do you
I'm
live?
the next door neighbor. So I live right next door, 616 Riverview Place.
Great, thanks.
And so I just want to say a few things. One of the things is the parking. You know, part of it is that a couple of us on the street don't have driveways, and that takes away from our parking in a driveway. So that does limit things. If we have family or a friend come over, work people throughout the week, in the summertime, or let's say 7 to 8 months out of the year, well, I think we support 5 to 6 lawn mowing companies, which need a place to pull their gigantic trucks and trailers. It does get a little bit hairy at times. So, you know, I can't imagine that, you know, people would want to have 5 cars in a driveway and then try to all back out for the guy in front that wants to go get donuts or whatever. Anyway, that seems a little bit strange to me. So there's parking that we are all very concerned with. The biggest one for some of us is the lack of a permanent resident. You know, there are places in this country now where this has become such a problem for neighborhoods and people like us that don't want it, that they are passing laws saying that someone has to be a permanent resident in that neighborhood. It makes a lot of sense when you think that that way they know the neighborhood. They have family, you know, that comes and visits them there. It's their home. And then they really should, you know, be able to do what they want to if they want to, you know, go stay with their mother and rent for the weekend or a week or whatever. Without that, then you just have a business, or you just have a place where people can sign up online and go not be greeted or whatever. I don't know what her plans are for that, but it's hard to kind of oversee a property that's being rented out when you're not there. And the neighbors don't know what to do with that. So I've been told, well, you just call 911. Well, I don't want to call 911, and I don't want to babysit someone's business. I shouldn't have to. You know, when we bought our houses, we didn't expect that there would be this kind of problem in a neighborhood. And I don't think, frankly, that a lot of people want to live in a neighborhood with that. So I think that also the city needs to take a look at what people are saying to them about these residential housing neighborhoods where people are just dropping in and putting these places where no one lives, no one's invested. She doesn't know that elderly people live on the ends of our streets. She doesn't know if people haven't been out, like the older folks, and maybe need a look-see, or we need to go see if they need a meal or something like that. We all do that kind of stuff for each other because we know each other, because our kids grew up in this neighborhood together, and that's what we wanted when we bought a house. When I came to this town, I was from a different state, and all I wanted was a nice, safe, little, adorable community to raise my son. I think that's why people, and I mean people all over the place, I had patients in St. Louis that constantly said, if you ever have a house for sale in your neighborhood, let us know. We love that town. We want to retire. But the problem is that, you know, when you have done that, then you're invested in your neighborhood and your community. And when you don't do that, it's just a vacant house with strangers that come and go whenever they get rented on, whenever they want a vacation, or go to a festival, or go to a wedding, or whatever they want to do. And I don't want to babysit what somebody else has got. I don't want to call the police. That's stressful to people like me. You know, I don't like to do stuff like that. I just want to have my community be a community and not a business type district. And with two already there, it's pretty obvious that if the board continues this kind of thing or passes this kind of thing, a lot of us will leave. I mean, I just think that that's inevitable for the town. I certainly don't want to stay retired in that neighborhood if it's just going to be all those type of businesses, or even as many as there already are looking like there's going to be. So there's that. So the lack of a permanent resident is a big one, I think, for the community. We know that it's zoned residential, and for the life of me, I can't understand why we are having to talk about this as the fact that she doesn't live there, and it is a business, and that's all. It's a for-profit, empty house sitting on our street. I don't see how that should even happen, personally, not in a residential. We're not downtown. We're not in the overflow of downtown. We're quite a bit of, we're almost to 47, basically. And to me, that seems like all they want is Airbnbs in every neighborhood all the way to the park. And I just don't understand why they don't keep it in a certain place. I understand they might sell out. Oh, well, people will have to go across the river or somewhere else, I guess. But it feels like, honestly, the whole community feels like it's almost a betrayal, that we bought homes in a residential place so we could raise families, and all of a sudden we get told, sorry, you just aren't going to have that anymore. You're going to have a little hotel zone here, and you're just going to have to live with it. And it feels like we're being punished for it, honestly. That is how we feel. And we're the ones who have to watch out for it. And I just can't imagine why we have to do that. People are concerned with noise, quite concerned with noise, and I don't think when there's no one there, they can oversee that. They can be the one, how do I get a hold of somebody besides police, of course, and I don't want to have to get a hold of anybody. Someone should be there monitoring that kind of thing, driving by every once in a while, making sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. That is how a lot of places in the country, I know Denver, Los Angeles that don't have those laws. I'm sure there are many more that have enacted those laws. So I think that that's a big one as well. So basically, I think we've covered everything, and we've got them written up in a little summary here, and we will put that with the petition, and we will submit it. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I do want to say, we're not encouraging you to call 911.
Somebody told me.
Mark's got the number,
Okay.
1050.
non-emergency number.
I do not want to call the police. It's
Non-emergency.
stressful for people to have to do this. And it's stressful to the point where, why should we even be talking about it? To me, it doesn't make sense, but that's me.
And it's just helping the police department out. They cannot be everywhere.
Thank you. I'll remember that.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Come on up.
I am no public speaker by any means, but I'm here. My name is Deborah Branson Strasser. I've lived in Washington my entire life. I am directly affected by this property because we are side by side. I am 610 Riverview. I am not the homeowner. I am a long-term rental and have been there for 5 years. Terry and Bev Alferman are the owners. They've been contacted. They've signed the petition. My fear with this Airbnb or VBRO going in is that in order to take the one picture that shows the 3 cars in the driveway, they had to stand in my yard to do it. That's the only way they could do that. As far as parking, yes, there is a problem parking. And that photograph was probably the only time that more than one vehicle has been in the driveway. Anytime there's people there, they're all in the street. Now, Marcy and I, we've done a lot of things together so far, being neighbors. While renovating my downstairs.
If you would just address us.
Sorry, sorry. I just wanted to know I'm not
Yeah.
mad at it. While doing some renovations in my apartment, she allowed me to take some of the debris from my renovation and put it in her trailer. I appreciated that very much. In turn, when her lawnmower broke, I went and mowed her grass for her. That's what neighbors do. We help each other out. However, I was a little taken back when a hot tub got delivered and there's a 48-foot tractor trailer in my backyard because they managed to get it. Now, I work in traffic and transportation, so I work with tractor trailers, so I can look at them and tell you how big they are. How they got that 48-foot trailer in that driveway and up there, I don't understand. However, you can see my yard where it got turned, at which point I come look out my kitchen window and there's a tractor trailer backed up to her fence and the front of the trailer is on my driveway. That is a problem for me. If they park 5 cars in that driveway or 3 cars in that driveway and the first car wants to go get donuts, are they gonna yard job me to get out? Because I park in the garage. I don't want yard jobs. I don't wanna have to replace my yard every time somebody does something. I don't want the extra trash that an Airbnb or a VBRO is gonna handle, because who's gonna take that trash out? If that place is rented Sunday to Sunday, who's gonna come by and pick up the trash and make sure it gets out on the street by Wednesday? Or is it gonna end up in my yard? I'm not picking up the other trash. I shouldn't have to pick up the other trash. Now, I'm a single woman in this house, and there are 9 other singles women living in the proximity of this house. That's scary, knowing that anybody with a valid credit card can come in and rent this vacation place. And I mean, seriously, and you look around and everybody on that block and in that neighborhood is 50 or above. So you're gonna rent this place to who? Who has a valid credit card? That's a problem for me. I have small grandchildren that are at repeat stage. If I am out on my patio or in my driveway with my grandbabies and somebody's got the house rented, who are they monitoring? Who, they can do all the checks to say that the people are good there, but that's only to the credit card holder, not the other 6 to 8, 10 people that are staying in the house. There could be a bachelorette party or a bachelor party going on, and I have some naked yahoo jumping up out of a hot tub with my grandbabies on the driveway. Now, what do I tell them? How do I explain that to them? I don't want that. I am a resident of that neighborhood, a long-term resident. but I'm not a homeowner. And it bothers me that this could go in. And then to have another one across the street. Because yes, I was interested in purchasing both of those houses when I found out, and before I could find out, they're up and sold. I would have loved to have bought one of those and become a resident, permanent resident of that neighborhood. That's all I got, but I hope you don't approve it.
Thank you.
But Deb, just FYI, you could have a naked yahoo that's living there permanently though, too, jumping out of a hot tub, so.
I could, but the chances are less.
Sounds like a good time. I mean,
It
but
may be.
I'm just,
Right. It could be a good time. You know, I am a single woman, but still,
right.
let's not go there.
Anyone else that would like to speak? Yes, come on up.
I'm Delisa Curran. I live at 2 Riverview Court, and I'm probably the newest neighbor in the subdivision. We moved back to Washington. My husband is Greg Curran. He wasn't able to be here tonight. We moved back. We moved to Kansas City. We grew up here all of our lives, and we're thrilled to be back in town. We had a hard time finding a house to buy, to be honest with you. It's very difficult to find a house in Washington. That's already been addressed. So we had land to build on and couldn't find a place to rent that we could put up a barbecue, and you can't have a house without a barbecue. So we ended up deciding to buy a small house while we built a house, and again, had a difficult time finding any place because houses were sold before they ever hit the market. We stumbled across this, thanks to our fantastic realtor, on 2 Riverview Court. We'd always wanted to live on the riverfront. And so we're beyond excited. We love our neighborhood. Having never lived in the downtown area before, it's a new experience. And I got to tell you, I didn't come planning to speak because I know our neighbors can handle it. But I have a new fear tonight after hearing the proposal, as well as the neighbors' concerns that I think are all valid. I am a frequent Airbnb customer as I travel. And I know that there is screening that takes place, but I also know that it's always up to the owner to choose. But my fear is this, because I've always lived in subdivisions. We had neighborhood meetings. We had the power. So I just want to remind you, we're counting on you. You have our power right here. And I thank you for, I know you're all elected, and I appreciate the trust that has been shown to you. And I'm just asking you to please consider the concerns, not just for our neighborhood, but for our town. Because I chose a place outside of that zone. You have a zone. I actually looked it up on a map because I hate to admit this, but we thought about that house with the river view should be shared. So we thought about an Airbnb before I knew them. So, but we saw, we are not in the zone without a proposal. We hope that you protect us with the lines that were drawn on that map. We wanted to live in a neighborhood. We don't want to live in a hotel district. And we can't do it on our own. We need you. So I'm just asking for you to please hear the concerns tonight.
I just want to not make sure of one thing.
Yes.
We're not elected.
Yeah, we're not.
You're not
We-
elected?
And we don't hold the power.
There's only Mark and I are the only that are elected.
The mayor and city council.
Yep.
Okay.
That's who holds the power in Washington.
Okay.
We're a commission that gathers information and
I'm
applies.
sorry, Mark. I'm sorry, 3 of us up here.
Oh, yeah.
I have no vote.
We just gather information. It will go to the city council for final vote.
Okay.
So. But you can recommend. Yes, we will recommend. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's the goal.
Yeah.
All right.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Anything else by board?
You guys, I'm new here. For you guys who don't know it, I was elected in April. And I ran on a campaign of keeping our neighborhood safe, remembering who we are as a town in Washington, Missouri, and we want to grow. We do. But we can't lose sight of who we are, okay? And what we're talking about tonight, that comes to the heart of the problem. And believe me, I get both sides. I do. I was a B&B owner for 7 years, and it was really nice having a little extra cash, meeting new people. But towards the end, something happened, I don't know what, but we got more and more guests that were knuckleheads. And so we decided it's just not worth it anymore. So this board, they have to look at what our ordinances are. That they're not, we try and, the Planning and Zoning Board tries to keep emotion out of it, okay? And they make a logical recommendation to the city council, and I don't get a vote unless it's tied 4-4. Mark will vote on it, okay? And the motion, or pardon me, the recommendation that they do give does carry a lot of weight, okay? But it's not binding, okay? So, and if it's 4-4 the next time this comes before the council right now, quite frankly, I don't know how I'm going to vote, okay? So, with that, I think I've said my piece, but what we're talking about, and Sal, I know we've discussed this many times. Are we oversaturated with VRBOs and Airbnbs? I think the answer we've come up with in the past has been not yet. We don't want to be Augusta, where investors, big-time investors are coming and buying up the town. We don't want to be that. Herman has a bunch of them right now, and I think the residents up there, from the people I've talked to, they feel like they're oversaturated. So are we at that point yet? I don't know. That's something that we're going to have to discuss at staff, and this may be a test case. I don't know. So, thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
The only other comment that I would like to throw out there, and I know, Sal, and Mr. Chairman, we've talked about this for probably the last 2 years or longer, that this has been a discussion. Over those 2-year periods, we've probably looked at 25 to 30, maybe not that many.
No, we have about 39 total.
39 total. So we probably have done maybe 20.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think tonight is, best my memory serves me, is the most opposition we've ever had to any application. Am I speaking right?
Close, yes.
Very close.
There's two others. There
Lake
are two
Washington.
others, and so
Deer
that was
Run
what-
over there, that
and
was a
the
big
Deer Run, and then Lake Washington.
Lake Washington.
And
Lake Washington,
just
that's right. And we
historically-
denied that one.
yeah.
But I will say,
I don't want to take over what I have
No,
something to say when you're
that's
done,
okay.
but you're, but
I know how
yes.
it all runs together. But my point, I guess, is that we have to make sure that I feel we keep the neighborhood together. And we've denied these before because of that. And when I went and drove down there, even though I knew where the area was, being in the fire service here for 45 years, I knew that that was a residential area. It's different than your subdivisions. And there are some beautiful homes back in there. In fact, I wouldn't mind living back there myself on the river sometime, because that's pretty cool back there. But I think we have to look at each neighborhood as that neighborhood, because I think the folks here tonight have said that, that we need to be careful. And maybe it's come to a point, maybe this is the meeting that will do that we put a moratorium on VBROs. I know we're addressing it in the comp plan. That's coming up in, February, March, something like that?
well, or our goal is to adopt it in August.
In August, okay. So, but there's going to be some discussions coming up after here, not too distant future, to start doing that. Maybe it's time we put a moratorium on that, just to let things lay for a little bit. I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing that out there to the rest of the board too. But I think this is enlightened it a little bit because of the the neighborhood discussions that we've had here tonight. So that's all I really wanted to add, Mr. Chairman.
Samantha?
And I would say, I mean, it's a special use permit because it's a special use. It's not an automatically permitted use. So I think we've had a lot of assumptions of investors coming in and presuming that they're entitled to a special use permit when that simply is not how a special use permit works. That simply isn't the case. And it's not that, these uses are not appropriate in certain areas of town, but we've historically not approved these special uses when there is this kind of opposition in a neighborhood. And I would have to second what John said in that, once we've dealt with this, I will make a motion that we do recommend a moratorium on special use permits until the comp plan is in place. I mean, that's something that I think needs to happen, because I think we're getting to that point, where we've seen, again, there's a place for these, and they can be wonderful in, the parts of town that are appropriate for this. But, I don't know if, Mr. Chairman, if you're ready for motion or not ready for motion.
Not that motion. I think let's.
Right, or if you're ready for
on
motion
this,
on
but,
this
no,
issue.
just a second. We'll get more discussion, then we can go back to the motion, if that's all right.
And no matter how this turns out this evening, I just want to give kudos to all you residents, and kudos to you guys as well for showing, and for the outpouring of support for each other. I know I got phone calls yesterday, and that's one thing I said is show up. And I know it's not easy getting up to that podium and talking. So I wanted to thank you all very much, for everybody, for showing up, because that means a lot too, supporting each other.
Well said, Mark. Absolutely.
Yes. You come on up.
Thank you. We do show up for each other, and that's what's so special about our neighborhood, as others mentioned, taking food to the elderly, checking on each other, telling each other they left a window open or their doors open, and that is what's so special. And I would ask that once we submit our petition, know that there was much more support. It was just 6 days' notice. We have elderly residents, and we have other people that work nights and shift work, et cetera, that were not unable to make it. So they are on that petition. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Just a couple of things also. We didn't see this. You actually called me and asked me about it, and we didn't know anything about it yet. So as a planning and zoning, we get it usually, try to get it 2 weeks out, but sometimes people are sick and it doesn't come out.
Not pointing any fingers.
Next time I'm sick, I'm going to work from your house when I'm sick.
And this is in this is where it's in our zoning codes in residential, because it is a residential, like a long-term lease would be. That's why it's there. I don't know if we could get any other kind of special zoning for that, but that's why it's here in this residential area. So anyway, that being said, any other comments?
And I'll just kind of shadow off of Mayor Hagedorn. I've been up here 13 years now on this council, and one of the things I first ran on, and still run on, is I'm a voice for the people of Washington. So if the people of Washington, the outpouring of support and the tell me they want something done, I'm going to do it. No matter if it fails or passes, I'll do whatever that you guys need me to do, because that's why we're elected. Elected officials forgotten that. I never have. So I know I'm just a small town politician, but that's one thing I stand on. So thank you.
Tom, I'll make one comment real quick too. Someone very special to me lives at 613 on 3rd Street there. I do too. She didn't call and lobby me. It's my mother. She didn't call and lobby on me. She could have got a ride with me too. And but yeah, I was going to check the petition. See, it's on there.
All right, if there's no other
Can you
comments by
imagine how it's
board.
going to be?
I would move that we recommend denial of this petition.
I'll second it, yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Yes, it will go to council.
That'll be the final
Yeah.
say.
Tuesday the 17th.
All right. Sure. Thank you very much.
So you'll need to show up there again,
Yeah.
too.
We'll be
it'd be council 17th. All right. If you could leave quietly, we got one more agenda item. Thank you. Item number 5, file number 230102, amendment number 1 to Richard Oldenburg Park, sale of Lot 1 to Precoat Metals.
Yes, so we haven't had to do this in a while, so it's a good thing this is happening again. But when we sell a lot in the industrial park that is owned by the 353 Redevelopment Corporation, per state statutes, we have to do an amendment to the development plan to approve that sale. And so that's what we are doing here tonight, to approve that sale to Precoat. You can see here, I'm going to run through these slides because this is also for the preliminary plat on the next agenda. We have set here a preliminary plat for you all to approve along with this amendment to set the proposed layout of this park. You can see this does allow for 6 developable lots. Precoat will be on Lot 1. I'm sorry, my pointer's not charged, but Lot 1 at the top of the hill there. And then the way this is laid out allows what our engineers feel like the most efficient way for that to get done. However, because we may have a potential user come in that wants a larger lot, we're going to keep it vague at this point. And so what the final plat will be at council next week, because P&Z does preliminary, council does final. Just so you all are aware, this is actually all that will be recorded is Lot 1, and then keeping the 87 acres just wide open. And then as lots are continue to be sold, we can break those up differently as needed. But this is now how the park will be marketed online with those 6 lots available. So, very excited.
Yes, great. Questions, comments? Entertain a motion. Anybody in the audience that would like to speak?
I'll make a motion, otherwise.
You got a motion, Mark?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Other business?
Well, that was only one motion, sorry.
Oh.
I'll move for the
Yep, sorry.
approval of the preliminary plat.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Now we're finished with that. Other business?
No, I just want to thank everyone who came to our first public meeting for the comp plan. Our consultant was very impressed with not only the turnout, but the comments we got. I think other communities they've gone to, especially since COVID, when they've shifted more online to those meetings, they don't have turnouts like that. So they were very excited. They've gotten some good feedback. They've already started to change some of the goals and objectives. He has not gotten with us when we will schedule the next one, but what we will do is have another steering committee meeting before our next public meeting. But it's been going very well. I think they've proved to be worth the contract we've done with them. They've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes with us, so excited to see that move forward. And the Airbnb discussion has came up at each steering committee meeting as well as the public forum as well. So I've pulled just like what St. Charles does. I will say the whole thought process was, let's wait. We've asked them for a recommendation, so we'll wait for August for their recommendation. But if P&Z, the mayor, council wants staff to either come up with a different solution, whether it be a moratorium or more stringent rules before August, we're happy to do that. Just in August, this past August, St. Charles passed some rules that seemed it seemed like they could fit ours. When we were doing our own research, it was hard to find. A lot of cities do it by census tract. Well, Washington is one census tract, so couldn't really do it that way. So I just wanted to throw that out there. It has been a discussion. Originally, it was let's wait for the comp plan recommendation, but I get it. You could have, once that gets public, you could have dozens of applications, people trying to get it in under the wire before it gets too strict.
So does that have to come from the council or come from us for?
It would be a recommendation from you all to council.
Well,
And actually, if it's a code amendment, it's a public hearing here, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So we would have to have enough notice to do a public hearing at a P&Z meeting before a public meeting at city council.
Even if you were going to adopt a moratorium, you still have to go through the public hearing process.
There you go.
Okay, well, can we put that on our next agenda to, next month to discuss a moratorium and get the notice out and let people come and talk, because I feel like we have to do something. I think we need to take some proactive action so that, you know, that this board, the council, and the citizens, frankly, of our community aren't put in these positions until we can get a better handle on what we're doing and what the plan is for our vision of this community.
Yeah,
It
I
can
agree.
still be done in the C3.
Yes.
That's,
Right, I mean, there are
Well, that's
places
what
where
the
it's
code change
where
would-
it's permitted.
That's what the code change would be. I mean,
No, I
moratorium
mean,
on
it's
special
not.
use permits.
Yeah, it's
Special-
just the special, a
right.
moratorium on special use
Yeah, I just
permits,
wanna
not
point
on
out-
this type
No,
of business.
No,
I just
Because-
wanted to point out that.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I mean,
Well,
there are-
actually, I'm glad you clarified, because that was a question I had, so.
No, I was just suggesting a moratorium on special use permits. And what I would suggest we look at is either pending the adoption of the comp plan with some new thing, or if city staff, if we have some solution or some proposed code amendment before that.
I think
But
we'd still wait until the comp plan is complete and stuff ready to personally,
But if we can get the notices out so we can have that public hearing on a moratorium, and I think we need to move sooner rather than later with enacting that.
Just FYI, because I also represent the town of Augusta, they've been struggling with this issue for quite a while now. And it's the exact situation the mayor mentioned, where people are buying these up purely as investment properties. And there's only, you know, a couple of hundred residents in Augusta to begin with. So when you buy up 10 or more houses, that's a pretty big chunk of your housing stock.
Exactly,
So,
exactly.
they adopted a moratorium
it's been over.
early last year, and then it got extended one time to do some additional study. And then they were supposed to vote tonight on a new ordinance on short-term rental lodging. And there's all sorts of details to it, but one of the aspects of it would be that they would be required to get a permit every year. You have to have a permit to operate. And those permits, they would be a limit of 15 permits total, citywide or
Okay.
townwide. Not that that's the right answer for everywhere, but at least that's one of the ways they addressed it. And then there's also a provision that you have to live, and I think it's within 10 miles of the town hall. You have to live within that radius if you're gonna own one or operate one. And there's all sorts of operating rules, and I'd be glad to share a copy of it with anybody who wants to see it. I didn't write it. I had some review and comment on it, but most of it was written by others.
I did look, as we were talking about this the past few weeks, St. Charles passed one in August, very similar. I didn't see anything about distance as an owner, but they have 0.05% of your total housing units. And so as more housing units are built, more permits are issued. And so it keeps up with the pace of that. With
Is that
our
the
math.
county or the city? That was
St. Charles City.
Yeah.
Because then if you're in the historic zoning district, there's no limit. In the historic district, walkable district, what they called it. But that is, and then same thing, there's a permit, and I think they may have even had, as an owner, you're only eligible for so many. So one person couldn't come in and do 10, I think. But that was something that we looked at when we were talking to our consultants about the comp plan. But again, 1 or 2 a month, it's hard to figure out that threshold of what point is the tipping point. So whatever recommendation you guys want to make, we were happy to present on next month.
And then kind of like,
I mean,
kind
I
of
think
like
we
what-
have, I mean, I think, oh, go ahead, sorry, Chuck.
kind of like what, what they're pointing out here is when you look at, within a given area. I mean, you've got 5 of them currently and a 6th proposed within a short, radius.
That was the other thing. They have to be at least a block apart in St. Charles. So whatever their block length definition, 700 feet, that was the other thing that they have. Yeah.
It sounds like we've got some ideas to address it, but I just think until we have a plan, are we in agreement to put on the agenda for next month a moratorium so we can have the public hearing and do this correctly?
I will say in full disclosure, I have no applications, but I've had questions of people saying, should I apply before it gets stricter? I have 100% gotten.
I mean, to be quite blunt, that isn't my problem.
No,
I
that's
mean,
what I'm saying.
I'm not trying to be, but that it just simply isn't my problem or the residents' problem. I mean, I'm here as an advocate for the city, not as a,
Well, I'd say if we're saying we're gonna pass stricter rules in August, that's all our agendas are gonna be until August, I would bet.
But
That-
still, at the
Well-
same time, we still have the option of.
That's what I'm-
Stuff though, too, but that's what, if we sit there and can put out that we're gonna put a moratorium on them and.
Right.
Give us an opportunity to go through the proper channels to get all this figured out.
Guys, I'm a little uncomfortable about doing something outside the comp plan. You know, we stress doing that.
But yeah, that's why I think we ought to wait until, you know, the comp plan is complete and stuff like that, and get information back from.
Include it in there.
Yeah,
Right,
that's what I,
right.
right.
I
That's
think
what
we're-
was
I think
thinking,
you're
too.
saying is, let's hold off till we get the comp plan
Exactly.
information.
I think. What do you
Exactly.
think, Sal?
Put a moratorium on, don't let
Right.
people do it, and then when we get the comp information, then say, okay, we're gonna open it back up, here's what we're doing, or
Right.
no, we're not, or.
right,
It's-
then we
we have
can,
all that information.
at that point, we'll have a plan
Yeah,
on how to
but
deal with
in the
this
next
in an orderly fashion, but until
8
then,
months will be.
they're
no
just,
special
we simply
use.
won't be entertaining special use permits.
And we'll have
And
an
maybe
op-
Mark and Sal, maybe you guys can both forward the council and the P and Z board up here, you know, what Augusta has, what St. Charles has, so it can be looked on, get studying it too.
Yeah, started getting information as far as what are some of the other ones doing and stuff,
Yeah,
that we can
I'll,
start digesting some
I'll
of that
send
stuff
it
at the same.
to Sal and
Yep.
Gina. She's got everybody's email addresses, and you can forward that. out.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we direct the staff to put on our agenda for next month a moratorium on short-term rentals, housing.
Special use permits.
Special use
use
permits,
permit.
I'm sorry,
Second.
special use permits.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moved.
That's all I have.
I don't think we really need a vote to put something on the agenda, but.
Well,
We need to,
I guess that's a good point.
it's a good point.
Pretty solid direction.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. So our next meeting is Monday, the 13th of February.
Okay.
So we will go ahead and get that published in the paper. As of right now, I don't think we have anything. We have a plat. I thought you were about to tell me we had a special use permit for it. We have one plat. Okay.
Probably will.
So,
What plat?
okay, thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
That'd be the only motion I made. I was gonna make so many tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
First and a second to adjourn, all those in favor?
Aye.
Football's on.
Yeah. It's all being
I know, so did I, and I can't, the box is in here, but there's no charger in the box.
Have a good New Year's.
Yeah, we did, how about you?
They are.
Oh, we're in bed.
Well, I thought that was it, but.
That's a solid, it's,
Well, I mean,
right. Parking is gonna be a problem, right. Look, when you look at those lots aren't all uniform. They're not, they're deep, they're narrow, you know, it's.
Oh, okay.
Come on, man.
Have fun. Good. Oh,
there
yeah,
you go.
great.
have their own now.
Sure.
So it's like, you know, so nobody's having this big thing anymore. Everybody's got their own little families and stuff going, so it's like, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it was good. They moved in.